go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. And for anyone who's watching, we do record all of our power hours, so they are available afterwards as well on our website. So thank you for joining us, and a huge thank you to our Board of Education and our superintendent for continuing to support opportunities to engage with our community in different ways. And our power hours are one of those opportunities. So just a chance to be able to learn together and be able to ask questions and be in person together. And we're so grateful this evening to have our panelists, who I'll have them go through and introduce themselves in a moment. But the month of May is probably the most hectic for those of us who are parents of children, but also for our mental health teams and our administrators. We have everything from state testing and AP exams to planning end-of-year events to having all of the end-of-year events. So it's no small feat to say yes to something in an evening in May. So thank you all so much for being here, and for our building administrators who continue to come out and support us. So with that, I will start with Dawn Howe, just a quick introduction of our panel.
Sure. Hi, my name is Dawn Howe. I am a counselor at Sutherland High School.
Hi, my name is Laura Hefner. I'm an assistant principal at Mendon High School.
Hi, Amy Daniels. I'm a counselor here at Calkins Road.
Hi, Sarah Jacobs, the principal at Breckenridge Middle School.
Hi, Heather Clayton, principal at Mendon Center Elementary.
Great, thank you so much. So our purpose this evening is really to talk about what our kids experience as they're making these big transitions and shifts. So for tonight, we'll be talking about as we're going from elementary to middle school to high school, and beyond high school. But a lot of the things that you'll hear this evening really can help us with any big changes or big emotions that our kids are facing. So what you won't hear is, how do I pick my kid up from school? Or how do I drop medication off at the nurse's office? Or how do I call my kid in sick? How much homework are they going to get? Those are the types of detailed things that you'll hear at all of the orientation events and in the school buildings. What we're really talking about tonight is what happens for our kids during these changes and transitions, which many of you may be experiencing already. And what can we do as parents to support them, and then what types of things happen at the schools to support them. So we'll give you some information about each of these transitions as we go, and then there'll be time certainly for you to ask questions as well. So just a few things before we get into the specifics. Some of the things that we see in our kids, even probably as far back as midway through the school year, as they're anticipating a big change. Sometimes we don't make the connection that it's about a big change, and sometimes our kids don't either. So they may feel very sad. They may be reverting back to behaviors that we haven't seen in a long time. We may be seeing tantrums really at any age. They may have short tempers. They may be picking fights with us. And sometimes as parents, we start to worry what's going on, what's happening, and we don't always make that connection. And that's okay. And it's okay that our kids don't make that connection either. We also don't want to put down their feelings by saying, like, well, you're just transitioning to high school, so that's why you're feeling sad, so I'm not going to acknowledge that. So some of the things just overarching that we can do is just recognize that sometimes there is a sense of loss for our kids. They're in a school or a situation that they know the hallways, they know the people, they may feel really comfortable and confident going in each day, or at least there's a safety there. And especially for some of our students who don't feel that way, they may have their safe people at school and people who know them and understand what they've been through. And there's a sense of loss that that part of my life is ending, and then I'm moving on and not knowing what that next step is. And it's okay to walk alongside our kids with that and acknowledge what's happening and say, this is going to be hard. That's okay. You feel sad now. It's okay. It's normal to feel sad sometimes. It's normal to have behaviors sometimes, but we also want to normalize those feelings while still keeping those boundaries and expected consequences and responses for our kids. So sometimes we may say, well, I feel bad for them. They're going through a lot, so we're going to try and remove these barriers for them. We really want to help our kids see that, yes, we're feeling sad. Also, we have to kind of pick our chin up and get off to school today the best we can, and really work with the school to help kids still know that there's still going to be boundaries and expectations for them, because that actually makes them feel safe and lets them know that we believe in them, that they can get through these things. We don't want to give them the interpretation that we don't believe that they can do it. And then just one of the other things to think about is those routines that we have for our kids and the structures that they already have in place, keeping those going. And we all manage our emotions through changes in our own lives, and sometimes just modeling for our kids. They don't pay a lot of attention to how we're going through things in our lives, but if we have a change at work or there's something else going on in our lives that's stressful, maybe with our own parents or families, being able to talk through with them the types of things we're doing. That I'm going to go outside and take a walk right now because I'm feeling extra stressed and I know that's going to make me feel better. Or I had a really tough meeting, I'm feeling very angry, or I'm feeling very sad. I'm going to go spend some time by myself and take some deep breaths. I'm going to make sure I get a good night's sleep tonight because I'm feeling really overwhelmed. So sometimes we have to walk through our thinking with our kids just to help model that for them. So those are just some overarching things that we all talked about as we were planning for this evening that really will help at any age and through lots of different transitions and changes that our kids may be experiencing. So with that, the first big change beyond kindergarten is after our kids are through their elementary years and starting to transition towards middle school. So with that, I'll turn over to Heather Clayton to get us started.
So Sarah and I will kind of do this piece together. I'm not sure how to work this mic, how close it needs to be or not. I apologize. So they call anxiety the great masquerader, and there's a good reason for that, because the anxiety we're seeing in our kids right now presents in all kinds of different ways. We have some kids who are really internalizing the change, and they become increasingly like withdrawn and don't want to talk about it and want their alone time and their space. And then we have our externalizers who have become like more irritable or combative or just oppositional in general. And behavior is a form of communication, and the underlying piece in all of that is the anxiety and apprehension about the change. So we begin to see that in the schools, but you obviously see much more of that at home. Speaking specifically about 5th to 6th, our 5th graders are the big stuff in the school. Now it's been 6 years they've been there. They want to be independent, but they also want to call mom when they forget their trumpet. So there's this fine line between they feel they're all that, but when it comes down to it, they're still very much needing our support and our empowerment for them. We try to give them choices and own things like, well, you forgot it, mom didn't forget it, you forgot it, so you're going to have to, go the day without it. So we try to start more of that tough love transition as the kids are making the change, so that they learn that once you're in middle school, you're not going to have quick access to home as you do now in elementary. Just in terms of some supports that happen at school, Sarah and I can share in this, but it starts as early as February in our elementary buildings. We have what we call the We Love Music Assembly. So all the children visit the middle school they're going to attend to see a concert, and that happens as early as February. Then we have Fun Night just happened. If you have a 5 Go 6, you've probably heard about that. Big night. And our counselors at the elementary buildings are doing a lot in the classrooms, lessons with the kids about how to manage a schedule. They actually visit the middle school websites. They kind of take a deeper dive into what to expect with the change. So there's at least a couple of lessons from our counselors at the elementary level in anticipation of the change that they're going to see at middle school. Our middle schools also come and visit too. So I'll let Sarah talk about some of the other pieces that are built in.
Ooh, it's heavier than
I know, right?
I think just to add to what Heather shared about the mix of emotions that your child will be experiencing, and Amy can certainly talk to this too. It's a bit of a roller coaster too. So you might be seeing certain things one day or one week, and then it kind of changes the next. So just kind of deep breaths ourselves, right? We're all, we can get through it, and we can help our child through it as well. But again, some of those transition pieces, we work really closely with all the buildings that feed into the middle schools. So that looks like also starting to attend transition meetings with our 5th grade teachers and meetings with between administrators and counselors and things like that. So a lot of conversation happens because I think that our biggest goal with welcoming your child into middle school is making sure that we are creating a successful start to the year, and that goes along with placement, and we want to make sure that they're feeling good about coming into whichever building that they are entering into sixth grade. We have a lot of things going on in the spring that then carry into the summer. Josh Walker, the principal at Calkins, and I both put out some videos recently that gave not only parents and guardians a little taste of what to expect, but also hopefully we encourage students to view them as well. And again, just to kind of see, I think a lot of that uncertainty really stems from like not knowing, right? Not knowing what the space looks like, not knowing, how to get, what does it mean to change classes? So looking at the schedule and things like that. And then in August, we start to deliver more information through our orientation. Our Where Everyone Belongs, or our web orientation, is a really amazing program that we have occurring at both middle schools that is actually a peer-led program. So our eighth graders, they apply as seventh graders in the spring to be web leaders, and they help basically run the orientation. It's a whole morning that has activities that include things that are fun and can also maybe distract from some of those feelings of anxiousness or uncertainty, but also they're learning about the building and the culture as they go. So, seeing the building, also getting to know each other, because another piece of this too is we have these elementary buildings all feeding into two buildings, right? 5 going into the 2. So there's also that anxiety around, well, am I going to know anybody? And am I going to have a friend in my class from, DRE or wherever they're coming from? And we really encourage, and this is where I think parents and guardians can be such a huge help, is we really encourage that to allow those feelings to occur and to reassure students that it's meeting new people, trying new things, taking a risk are all really important aspects, and that it's really great for them to kind of put themselves out there. So helping them along with that piece as well. So they have the web orientation that includes the parent meeting where you all will get a lot of information. And then we work through the start of the year to really go in depth with building expectations, a lot of that cultural and climate piece that each building, both Calkins and Barker Road, have very unique cultures and climates that we kind of introduce the kids to. And also do some team building activities. We have some field trip experiences that they get to take part in. So really, that's kind of where it all starts. And I think too, some of the other events that are really powerful with the fun nights are like movie nights and things like that. So I would say encourage your learner to take advantage of those and to get involved once they get to the middle school, because that really helps to acclimate them to the new space that they're going to be in for the next 3 years. I don't know, Amy, if you want to share anything more.
Yeah, I can add in. I don't know if this is on or not. There we
There
go.
it is.
I also wanted to add in, we're also in the middle right now at both middle schools, going over to the 5 elementary buildings. The counselors go over into every single 5th grade classroom and introduce ourselves, and our elementary counselors have already worked with the kids to generate questions that they might have, and then we take the time to answer all of those questions. So hopefully they feel good before they ever even come in August and go to orientation. A couple other things I just wanted to add. I think it's good as far as like your own frame of mind to remember that our 6th grade teachers are really elementary certified teachers. So we always say, coming into 6th grade is really that transition to middle school, and teachers are aware of that. Usually the first day of school, our first period teachers, they keep their kids the majority of the day, and they're taking them on a tour of the building. They're making sure they understand how to read their schedule, when they're going to lunch, band, orchestra, chorus. They help them with their lockers. So there's really a ton of support built right in. No one is yelling at kids those first weeks. Well, hopefully never, but the first week or whatever, if they're not getting to class on time. It's totally understandable. I feel like it's a real soft start we try to do for, at each of the buildings for sixth grade. One of the things I had wanted to make sure to say is I meet with all of my sixth graders in small groups pretty early, and we talk about the transition. The number one thing they all say is the hardest thing is the early wake up. So as a parent, as you get through the summer, I would say really, that's the one thing we can't make better for them. Sometimes I feel, what, your bus is going to come at 6:45 and our bell's going to ring at 7:35 and the day's going to start. And there's nothing we're going to be able to do about that. So I think that's really important. I also think I would say try not to push the panic button. Kids might come home the first day or the first few days and be sad because their closest friends from elementary school are not on their team or not in their classes. Let them wade through it for a little bit of time. Let them meet some new friends or connect with kids they haven't seen since kindergarten or first grade in those classes. But I also encourage you, I also hear from parents, I know it's not like elementary school. We didn't know who to call. We didn't know who to contact. My kid's crying. Contact the counselors for sure, or contact the homeroom teacher of your child because we care. We want to know. We don't ever want to think that anybody is crying about coming to middle school because we want it to be fun. And we will work out plans. We for sure those first few days go into the cafeteria. We make sure that nobody's sitting there eating by themselves, whether your child's new to the district or just not seeing their friends in lunch. So we make sure everybody has someone to sit with. We want to know if something's not going right so that we can talk it through for sure. And I think sometimes they just got to kind of ride it out and, let things settle down. And then I've had parents and kids be really upset about not being with friends. And when we check in, during the second week of school, things have really just ironed out and evened out. I encourage your kids to take the most of the opportunity, and that means trying out a new club that they've never done before, practicing taking the late bus while they're in sixth grade. I think that's a really good thing to get under their belt. And just enjoying the different opportunities and getting to know other kids, new teachers. I think another real head start is to help your kid maybe have a plan for organization before the first day of school. We might adjust that as things get underway, but it's a lot of materials for 7 or 8 different classes and just helping them get organized. I think patience is the number one thing I would say. And try to bite your tongue when they're being emotional and screaming at you.
I just want to add a couple points to that.
Okay.
No matter how you are feeling, they're going to read your energy and your response. So fake it till you make it. There's a lot of parent guardian involvement right now at the elementary schools. Naturally, we have moving up ceremonies, we have field days, we have all sorts of things happening. Just beware of talking to other parents and guardians and we're so nervous about middle school. We're so sad to leave elementary school. Be cautious of those conversations because the kids will really feed off of that. So that's just one thing we offer. And remember the 2 E's, empathy and encouragement. So just that confidence in them that they can do it. They can do it. And just that empathy, you're feeling what they're feeling. Just don't do the E that's enable. You don't want that E. Okay.
Do you want me to start with?
Do you want to start with what you guys do at
Yep.
middle
So
school?
I'm going to jump on the other end of things now as your kids get ready to go from 8th grade into 9th grade. That's another big change. In general, I think our kids get excited to go over to the high school. They've now been on a team for 3 years with the same group of maybe 80 to 90 students. I think they're kind of ready to expand their horizons and hang out with different kids who they haven't spent a lot of time with in middle school. We have a very set process for making sure all of the kids going into 9th grade are set. We start our transition with having high school personnel from each department come over to our building, or we go over there. We've started doing again this year, right? Which is nice again.
that's
Yeah.
great.
And the kids get to see the different areas of the building and hear about the different elective options. And then the middle school counselor work very closely with the high school and the high school counselors to make sure kids are getting into the right classes. I also think, and I know Dawn can speak more on this end, the kids are so excited. There's so many options. There's so much to look forward to at the high school. That can also be overwhelming. So sometimes it's good to reframe it that your middle school teachers are going to make sure that you're placed in the right level, the appropriate class for where you belong. And then you get a period, maybe 2 periods in 9th grade where you get to pick a course to take that you're interested in. So I think the options and the choices expand as they get further on in high school. But I will let, you want to speak now?
Sure.
Okay.
So one of the, we see the first time we get to see the middle schoolers is when they come over for the 809 visit. That is sometime in February, and they come over, they sit in the auditorium, and it's the whole group of them. That is a time when we see a lot of excitement, a lot of curiosity. And they, on that day, go through a secular process through 4 of our electives. So we break them up. They meet their counselors for the very first time, or close to as best we can at time, because we break them up through Alpha. And that is our very first experience where we introduce ourselves and have about an hour and a half with them at that time. That gets them in the mindset of what the high school's like. We have them experience the high school and see how, they sometimes feel how large it is, and they start thinking about where they want to go from there. From there, things that start happening, they're obviously planning with their middle school, what classes they want to take, all of those things. And eventually, when they come to us in the fall, we start off with an orientation in the summer in August, where they can attend, and they do something that's with our Link Crew group, which is a 3 or 4 hour event in the morning, a lot of games. They get to see the school, they get to meet some upperclassmen, and they are broken up into into groups of maybe 10-ish. So they also get to see their schedule at the end of the day. They get to tour. So all of those things help them to feel comfortable and safe in the environment, and actually just being in the environment to see how that may be same or different than the high school or than the middle school is. We also, for parents, you all are also coming to us in February, kind of at the same time the students are coming to us, and we're talking to and introducing you to what to expect at that time. And we go through a little bit about the course selection and answer a lot of questions. You can talk to other folks from all of our departments while you're there as well. During the summertime, besides when the Link Crew, our building is open in the summer, and students can come over and walk through and check out the building, meet with their counselor if they're in, or a counselor. They can meet with the assistant principal or principal, whoever's in the building, to kind of get, again, more comfortable. If they have their schedules, they can walk that at the end of August and check out their lockers and those type of things that they like to do. So when they actually start classes in the fall, again, we do something at Mendon called our 9th grade orientation, where students are in kind of homeroom groups, and they work with one teacher and go through some basic skills, different topics that we have identified that freshmen tend to need. And so that is something we've been doing for several years now, and we'll do that again in a little bit of a different format next year. Also, as they're at the school in the fall, we do like a activities fair where they get to be involved in lots of different groups, and get to talk with lots of different groups and try to become familiar with what we have to offer. One of the biggest things, I think, is all of the options they have at the high school. So there's clubs, there's sports, There's many different classes they're exposed to, and all of those things. And I think one of the things we always encourage everyone to do is to really just get involved in something new, try something new that they haven't tried before. We do class meetings with the students to support them and talk to them as a group. And obviously, we have lots of different supports from our staff, our counselors, social workers, administrators. We talk to them, walk with them, we see them in the commons, all of those things. That are somewhat similar to the middle school, but, you know, obviously, it's different for them. They're at the high school. You want to go?
So just to add a couple things, I think, you know, one of the things that Amy mentioned, you know, she talked about those smaller, the team groups and moving away from those groups at the high school level. And I think that's sometimes for some kids a very, it makes them anxious. They're worried they've been with the same group of kids. And for some people, they want to stay with that group of kids, whereas others are ready to expand their peer group and meet new people. And it's one of the things that we really encourage. When we meet with students later in the fall, they're excited about the fact that they have been exposed to new students and have met other people that they didn't even know attended Calkins Road. And it's something that hopefully families can encourage and embrace. You know, one of the things that's a big difference between the middle school and the high school is the lunchroom. You know, the ninth graders eat lunch one of 3 periods, just like every other student in the building. So they may not have a best friend in lunch on the first day of school, and I know how that feels, but we are in the cafeteria. There are teachers in the cafeteria. I'm always there on the first few days. If there's a kid sitting by themselves, we always approach them and try and figure out if they want to be alone, if they are just not comfortable, if they're looking for a match. So we're definitely making sure that kids are making those connections, and they are. They're making those connections on their own for the most part. So, you know, maybe there's a couple kids that need some help, but we're happy to help those students who may need a little assistance in those situations. But we do hear from students over and over again that it's great to start having new faces in their classes and being exposed to new students. So that's something to embrace as part of the process. We do have a lot of communication with middle school staff about students, you know, unique needs, supports that need to be there for students to make sure that we can try and make that transition from middle school to high school as seamless as possible. And, you know, sometimes it just takes a little while. I don't know a particular student and all of their needs as much as we've talked about it ahead of time. So we need to work through how that support is going to look for them and their particular needs in those first couple weeks or months of school. And we get there, you know, and that's just part of being in a new building and meeting new teachers, new counselors, and part of that growth process. And, you know, we're there to support them along the way.
I also think, can I jump in? One thing
Yeah.
I didn't say, on both ends, whether it's 5th to 6th or 8th to 9th, we don't just talk about the kids who might have some needs. We talk about every
Everybody.
single student on both ends. So that we all
Yeah.
have a little, put some faces and names together and know a little bit about them.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. And, you know, like one thing we were just talking about before we started tonight too is, you know, at the high school, different than the middle school, we work with students and families based on last name. So for the most part, when you have one counselor that you've worked with as your children are moving through the buildings, you'll work with that same counselor again in the future as your younger students are coming through also. So it might not be a continuity for your child, but it might be a continuity for your family and some familiarity there too as your family is working through the different grade levels. But lots of supports. Again, Laura mentioned the activities fair. I think it's one thing that you know, it's the second week of school usually. It's a great opportunity. Kids get very excited about it. You know, when we're meeting with ninth graders for freshman conferences, I often have kids who are like, I signed up for a whole lot of clubs, but I've really only been to 3, you know, so, and that's okay. You know, they get very excited and they want to try out new things. And that's part of what we want them to experience as part of that transition to high school also. One of the things too at Sutherland is that our Link Crew orientation peers, our upperclassmen, we do a few different check-ins with students in that early fall, one of which is usually like the first week of school. We do like a popsicle party afternoon, like on a ninth period on a Friday, and it's just a check-in with their link leaders, their peers, those upperclassmen about those first few days of school and how things have gone for them. And, you know, I think kids really enjoy and respect those upperclassmen that are there for them as part of that transition process, and it's something that works very, very well, so.
And one of the things that makes me think about is that we have, one of the things that I think makes the freshmen a little bit anxious is the size of the building and where is everything. They don't know where everything is. And we do something similar to your link crew, as we do a scavenger hunt, usually second or third week of school, where they do it with the link crew and throughout the building to find all those places they may not know where they are. And hopefully by that time, they do know where they are, so they can get there quickly and win their prize.
It's actually something I thought about when Amy was talking about sixth grade and them learning the building. I think for like our eighth graders fill out a sheet and talk about each of them, a couple things about themselves that they share with their counselors and, you know, their worries about coming to the high school. The top two things that I see on those sheets are getting lost in the building and how much homework I'm going to have. You know, by the third day of school, they know where their classes are. Could it be bumpy the first day, even if they've walked their schedule a couple times? Sure, but they end up in their classes. No one's marking them tardy. No one's giving them a detention because they were a couple minutes late in those first few days of school. So, you know, it'll be okay, you know, so. I think I want to move, I don't know, do you want to talk about anything else?
No, go ahead.
Okay. You know, and I think when it comes to like what parents can do, I think that, again, the conversation that we've been having about elementary to middle school to high school, I think those things are very similar. And I would say that those things even carry through when I'm going to be talking about transition from high school to the next phase after high school. You know, engaging in those conversations, encouraging students, you know, sending those positive messages about, you know, their ability to work through this process and be resilient. I mean, those are all messages that we want to be encouraging and sending to those students along the way. And I know one of the slides had on it, you know, not hitting that panic button and wanting to rescue them every step of the way. And, you know, we see that at all the different levels. So just other things to be keeping in mind. So, but when we start to think about the transition to after high school, every feeling and emotion we've talked about already, it's all here too, even when we're talking about them leaving high school and going to their next steps. One of the things I put on the slide is, you know, just knowing that students get the question all the time as seniors. What's your plan for next year? What are you doing next year? It's neighbors, it's extended family members, it's teachers, it's their classmates. And I think people start asking the question like, in November, they don't have their plan isn't set yet. They might know what they hope to be doing, but it's just an ongoing part of the year for them. So I think it's something to be mindful of just because it's always there, because the question is always coming up to them about what their plans are and where they're headed or what they're doing or what their next step is. And as many of them that feel excitement about what their next step is, there's also just as many that are nervous about those things, worried, you know, how many times do I hear from students that are applying to college, I'm never going to get into college. And it's like, yes, you are. You're going to get accepted to college, you know, so like everyone just needs to, you know, believe in the process and understand that there are options out there for everyone. But when we talk about the different supports that we have, you know, we spend a lot of time, especially in junior and senior year of high school, helping support students in that planning process for life after high school. So, you know, a couple of those first bullets there. So, you know, as counselors, we do classroom presentations for students. That is part of our individual conferences that we have with students. It's even tied into the course selection process. All of those things kind of work together when it comes to what are you hoping or planning for yourself after high school? What are your career goals if you have career goals specifically at this time or a major that you see yourself interested in? So we are working kind of in all of those ways to help support them so that they can be reaching those goals and taking those next steps after high school. So we spend a lot of time in Naviance and we teach them how to use the tools there. It is a software that students have access to. It's web-based. There's career resources, there's college planning resources. We work on simple resume building with them, so all sorts of different things that can help them in that process for after high school. And like I said, we do lessons in different classrooms along the way to help them learn Naviance, but also to help expose them to career resources that can help them as they're exploring different things that they might want to think about for after high school. Individual counselor meetings are part of our program throughout high school. Whereas in ninth grade, I'm starting to get to know a student. Junior and senior year, we really focus a lot in that time on how things are going academically, but then in meeting graduation requirements. But then also, what are you thinking or planning, and how are you doing with the different steps that you would need to reach your goals of, if it's applying to a four-year college, of applying to four-year colleges, what are the steps that we recommend that you take at different points in time? Where are you with taking those steps, and helping students along the way? And then senior year, I would say we have a lot of different things that focus on the college application process for students who are pursuing that. We do sometimes workshops in the summer to help them start their applications. We check in about their application process. Counselors are very involved with, making sure that paperwork all gets to the right places, that all of the different letters and components of the application are completed, and just helping them in making sure that they navigate and manage that process and all the different things that go along with it. And then, the many questions. Some kids, we do parent programs, we do events in classrooms, so those are all things that are there to help families and students as they're engaging in that process. And then the one thing that's the last thing that we do with students, that is our last official program that we do regarding this process, is each year we do have a group of alumni who've just finished their freshman year of college who come back, and we do a panel conversation like this with those alumni students, with all seniors, to talk about their first year college experience. So, we're talking about everything from, the drama of roommates to office hours to college professors and navigating your money. All of those things are things that our, graduates from the previous year are talking to our students about. And it's a great program, and kids really love it. It's great for them to not only see the kids and hear what their experience was like, and they're very real, which is great, because they're, saying, I had that nightmare roommate. We're not friends, and it's okay. I have other friends on campus, and I found other people, and you don't have to be best friends with your roommate, and just everything to help kind of ease those things that they're already starting to think about as they're finding their roommate matches right now and things like that. So, we really, think that program is really helpful for the kids to hear that before they're leaving us in June. But I would say, when you think about what parents can do, a lot of what's here is very similar to things that you've heard even when you're transitioning student from 5th to 6th grade. I think probably the hardest part about the transition to college is, when your kid calls you from 400 miles away to say that they're crying, or they just failed a test, or things like that. It's a little bit more difficult to manage that from a distance, but, encouraging those students and helping them manage expectations, and I think, again, not hitting the panic button, and feeling like, okay, I'm just going to move you home right now and you can transfer and things like that. Letting kids work through those uncomfortable moments is part of that process as well, whether they're a 6th grader or a 19-year-old, so definitely.
I remember a friend of mine from my town, but also a kindergarten teacher here, I think at Park Road, Karen Soccer. Her kids are older than mine, and she said to me when my first one went, she said, it is going to feel like your heart is being ripped out of your chest, and it does, but it gets better, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So hang in there, right?
As my sophomore in college, junior in college, is coming home next weekend, and I'm like, oh, he's coming home.
Oh, I
You
know.
know?
Yeah.
Changes the whole dynamic,
Yeah.
So,
But that's also, I think, what counselors are there to help with too. Because Dawn and I for sure are parents of college-age kids, and Dawn has talked me off a ledge many, many times about the process for sure. with college, but then also about the transition to college and all the feelings that I was having and all the feelings my children were having. And that's what the counselors in this district are for too, is to help you talk through all of those things, because we've all been there, and all the feelings are completely normal and they ebb and flow. And I truly believe every student finds where they need to be. You told me that would happen,
I know.
and it did. Yeah, so it all works out, but it's, we've been there as parents too, and it's a really hard process, whether it's, transitioning to kindergarten or sixth grade or ninth grade or college. There's a lot of emotion involved, and we're here to listen and to help in any way we can, for sure. Did I jump on your toes?
No, it's great. Thanks, Amy. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We want to save some time to transition to any questions that you might have. Just a couple of things that made me think of that when you were saying, Dawn. I can't tell you how many colleagues have said as their kids are off in college and they're stressing all day about something that their kid called them about, whether it's a really stressful situation with a roommate or something that happened when they were out at night and they're worried about their safety, or they're really stressing over an exam and the parent is absolutely beside themselves all day. They talk to their child later in the day and they're like, oh no, I'm fine, everything's fine, right? And so we're holding on to all that. They're kind of dumping all of their emotions on us and then they're moving on. But because they're not in front of us, we're really holding on to that. So the idea of not hitting the panic button, it's a lot easier said than done. Many of us have seen our kids through transitions. You see a really tough kiddo with tears in their eyes in the morning saying, I just can't do it today, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And you want to say, honey, get back in bed and I'll put the blanket over you and I'll get you some cocoa. But we say, you can do it, pick your chin up. You're going to feel a lot better when you get home, and we're going to be so proud of you, and we know you can do it. And it does break your heart to do that. It's a lot easier to say it, but we see what happens when we don't do those things. We're actually reinforcing to our kids that we don't think that they can do it. So lots of similar messages at different times. And a lot of times it's bigger kids, bigger problems that we can help to prevent as they're younger, and helping them through the transitions. Is there one other thing? Oh, just the other thing I was thinking is just following your kids' lead. A lot of times, as I know my own kids were going through transitions, I knew what I thought was right. And so I might be pushing my own ideas on them, whether it's a class to take or a sport to try or not try, and really just biting my tongue and letting them figure it out on their own, and really what's driving them and the types of things that they want to do. And there's been plenty of times where I've just been wrong and, some things worked out really well for them. So not inserting ourselves sometimes is really challenging. With that, anything else on the panel wanted to add? Okay. Any questions from anybody for the panel? Yes. How early does middle school start? 7:35.
So, yeah. 7:35 is when the first the class starts,
Children
but
arrive
everyone starts
around
arriving around between 7 and 7:35.
Yes.
But they're done at 2:24.
Right. Yes. I mean, it
Middle
is
school kids
early.
don't like it. High school kids don't like it worse, I think.
Yeah.
The time.
Yeah, it's a big transition. I think it was Amy that mentioned just that routine aspect, especially like leading up to the school year, but then, and I have a middle schooler myself, those breaks, you kind of slip back into that, like, oh yeah, sleeping in and stuff, but then that Monday comes comes pretty quick. And so just kind of keeping that routine is really great. And I talked to the parents in August about just sleep routine and sleep hygiene, and sleep is just so important. So we talk with the kids about that too, but just really reinforcing those good habits there as well.
And that's hard too, because that's when we're the most tired, and
Yeah.
you don't want to go up to their room and take the phone, even though you want to go up and take their phone away and do all those things, you're also exhausted, and then you're just yelling up the stairs at them to do things. So maybe that's just my house, but just going up, hand me your phone, it's time for bed. I know everybody else is up and on their phones, but they're not. So,
Or the
setting
video
those
games.
boundaries and those just helping them balance that. They can't make those decisions on their own.
Shayna, there was one thing about the phone that triggered something for me, that If your kids come into middle school and have a phone of their own by that point, they're not really supposed to have it out at all during the day. But the more important thing to me is if they have access to that phone all day, the minute something goes wrong, they're going to be texting you and you're going to be worrying about them. So, I mean, I would encourage you to tell them, you know, if you text them back, say, go and talk to your teacher about that, go and see the counselor about that, and help us to build a relationship with them by letting us help them problem solve, instead of you quickly calling the school or texting them back. I just think sometimes it's all good intention, but if the kids know they don't have your ear during the school day, they'll let us work with them.
Yeah, don't pick them up if they text you saying that they're sick. They should go to the nurse if they're sick. Yeah, yes.
There is actually quite a bit of evidence, I guess, now that high schoolers do better with later hours.
Yes.
Has Pittsford ever considered a change in schedules? Because like our elementary schoolers are up anyway at 5 a.m. Our high schoolers
Yes, the question was just around the ton of research around kind of the flip model of that younger kids are actually up ready to go earlier, and that the older kids get the more that some kids are different, but the older they get, the more sleep they need. So yes, certainly there's been a ton of research around that. Adjusting the schedule in one particular school, you run into all sorts of different complications with all of the after school events. And so we're learning from another local school district has done that with some mixed reviews, because then kids are out until much later at their sporting events, things of that nature. So it's really a balance, but it's something we're definitely always looking at and wishing that we could do differently for sure. So I know that'll be an ongoing conversation. All right. Well, part of the reason that we continue to get together in these formats is to also connect to different school staff. So please know that you can always reach out to any of us with questions. And one of the things I would say is we're always trying to balance as parents not hitting that panic button and normalizing kids' different emotions, but also your children. So if you feel like, yes, my kid's sad and they've been sad, but they seem really, really sad, right? And they don't want to do the things that they've enjoyed before, or they're having lots of huge emotions at home for long periods of time, and it's impacting our family. Please reach out. When you get that gut instinct, call somebody. You don't shy away from really following your own instincts too. So certainly don't hit the panic button. Yes, keep those routines, but also please reach out. It's literally our job to help you through these transitions. So there's always an administrator, a mental health team member, a teacher at the school that can help connect you and maybe say to you, yep, that sounds perfectly normal, or say, yeah, I think we might want to, put some different supports in place just to make sure that we're doing all that we can to help you and help your children. It definitely takes a village, and we're all in the same boat together as parents and educators trying to help our children through. Yes, Meredith. Yeah, so another good point. So yes, the teachers create placement forms that go over to each school when you're talking elementary to middle school. But each school also has some different things you can fill out to give the principals information. Is that what you mean, the parent information? Yes.
So
Yes, definitely.
typically 5 go 6. We haven't sent the parent input forms that you may have received in elementary years. But what we have is a lot of evidence, sometimes 6 years of evidence of what we know about your children as they transition to middle school. So like was mentioned earlier, we have meetings where we're discussing children one at a time, and, peer connections type of environment, if there's siblings. So a lot interests. Yeah. So there's a lot of those conversations that happen organically through our transition process. But if there's ever something you feel the middle school should know, don't hesitate to email the counselor, even in the absence of that form. Okay.
Yes. And I would say all of those meetings really run the gamut of everything from whether your child gets reading support, they have a 504, they have an IEP, all the way to they're in instructional challenge, they need additional differentiation. They're having all of those conversations. And then usually the counselor becomes kind of the holder of that and makes sure that the teachers that your child ends up placed with gets all of that information as well. Yeah.
They're not supposed to.
No.
Not supposed
So
to.
I can, there might be a little difference between buildings, but I can speak for Barker. The students' phones are away in their locker all day. So they are encouraged, if they need to contact home, they go down and use one of the office phones. There's plenty. And likewise, if parents want to contact their child, we have a system in place where they can call the main office, and we have lovely office helpers that will deliver notes and reminders and things like that, or tell your child to come down and call home. But we take a pretty firm stance at Barker where the phones from the first bell to dismissal are away in the lockers. They don't come out during the hallway passing or anything like that because it's really a distraction. So, and they should be learning, right? And enjoying being present with each other and things like that.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be. I mean,
They are not.
yeah, at Calkins, we say we don't want to see them from the first bell till the end of the day. And typically, if a student has their phone out, a teacher might take it from them, and then the child has to go down to the main office at the end of the school day to get it.
Yeah. Now, as you can imagine, if a child leaves a classroom to go to the bathroom and they stop at their locker, and so it's almost impossible to be able to manage that 100% of the time. But that is the standard. Yes.
Yeah.
They do not need a phone to attend
No.
any of our schools, just so you know. Not at all. I don't know the percentage. I mean,
I could
there's
guess,
a lot of phones.
but it's a mix. You know what? It's a family decision. I think you need to do what you feel best about and most comfortable. As Sheena said, that they don't need them at school, right? There's other ways in which to contact and communicate. And I would say, at sixth grade, it's kind of a mix.
For sure.
So,
But they never need them for 1 second in school.
No, and they have
really
one-to-one computer devices now for all of the educational things that they need to do with all the appropriate software and all of the appropriate tools and safeties in them. So they do not need to have a phone at school, and you should feel very good about whatever decision you make as a parent and sticking to that, whether it's about phone access or social media or whatever it is. There's no wrong answer. It's for every family's decision. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, so there's homeroom classes at all of our secondary schools. So they have part of the day that's a little bit longer, so they're with the same teacher during that time. They get their announcements during that time, so they can hear when clubs are going to be and activities. And sometimes they do different activities during that time to be able to connect with that person. But then they move throughout the day to different classes and different teachers. Yes, at the middle school, there's a team model. So the same 4 teachers will have about the same 100 students or so. And then they meet daily to talk about those students. So it's kind of a way to help ease students from 1 or 2 people during the day to many different teachers. Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you so much. Thank you to our panel. We really appreciate you so much, appreciate your time. And thank you to all of you. It's a beautiful evening, so thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And a huge thank you to PTSA, not only for our snacks, please take some to go, but also for just continuing to elevate our parent and guardian voices and helping us understand what types of things our parents want to continue to hear about. So thank you for your continued support. Have a great evening, everyone.